You are going to hear a rumor one day that Voddie Baucham is no more. Don't you believe it? Don't you believe it? Don't you believe it? Because though I die, I will rise with Christ. It will not be the end of me, because Christ is raised, and I too will be raised with Christ. That is why he is called the firstborn from the dead. Folks, you don't talk about a firstborn unless there's others who are born after him. Don't you pity me. You pity the one who wants to hold on to Jesus without holding on to the resurrection. You pity the one who has absolutely no hope because they have no resurrected Christ.
The story of Voddie Baucham's illness began quietly, but it soon shook his life and the lives of those who loved him. Voddie, a pastor and teacher known across the world, had always carried himself with strength. He preached boldly, traveled often, and stood firm in his convictions. Yet, even the strongest voices sometimes faced moments of weakness. For Voddie, that moment came when his heart began to fail. At first, the signs seemed small. He felt more tired than usual. He found it harder to keep up with the fast pace of his ministry. But over time, the fatigue grew heavier, and the concern deepened. Doctors ran tests, and soon the truth became clear. His heart was struggling. Without urgent help, the future was uncertain. It was a crushing moment for Voddie and his family. He had faced challenges before, but this was different. This was not about debates or ideas. This was about life itself. His wife Bridget stood by him, holding on to faith, but she could see the weight in his eyes. The possibility of losing him felt too close, too real. The decision was made for him to go to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, one of the most respected medical centers in the world. It was not an easy choice. It meant leaving behind the familiar and stepping into weeks of tests, procedures, and waiting rooms filled with fear. Yet, it was the only path forward. At Mayo, the doctors studied him carefully. They knew the situation was serious. His heart needed more than medicine. It needed intervention. The team of specialists explained what would happen, and though Voddie listened carefully, he could not escape the thought that his life was now in their hands.
Hey, wanted to give you the last Mayo Clinic update on my last day at Mayo Clinic. They say I'm going home tomorrow, so very pleased for that. Very pleased about that. We'll be staying here in the area, having to come back for some checkups in a week and in a month. But I just wanted to let you know that the procedure that I underwent yesterday was very successful, and that things were better than they expected. And I'm expected to make a full recovery. We'll learn more in the coming days and weeks. But for now, things look incredibly hopeful. We have been amazed, Bridget and I both, and overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support and prayers from people all over the world. I scared her the other day because I was sitting in the bed just weeping, and she thought something was wrong. And what happened was I was reading comments from the GoFundMe, and I had to stop. I was overwhelmed. And so thank you. It meant more than you could possibly know. There's still a road ahead. There's still work to be done. But the hope is that my heart will be able to repair and remodel, and I'll be able to get back to normal and not really have to worry about this as an ongoing thing. So again, just wanted to thank you. Just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate and how much Bridget and my family appreciate your prayers and your support. And wanted you to sort of see me with your own eyes to know that that things are going well, and that I'm doing well, that I'm on the mend, that God has been gracious, God has been kind. I will definitely say more about the series of events that led us to where we are, and the series of events that took place so that the team who did this, an amazing team, could do this when they did it. But for now, I just want to say thank you.
The night before his procedure was long and heavy. Machines hummed softly in the hospital room. His wife sat close, sometimes speaking, sometimes silent, just holding his hand. Voddie prayed quietly, asking God for strength, not only for himself but for his family. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, but he trusted the one who held tomorrow. When the day came, he was wheeled into the operating room. The bright lights and the steady voices of the medical staff surrounded him. He could feel fear rising, but also an odd calmness. He knew thousands of people around the world were praying at that very moment. His name had spread quickly through churches, ministries, and social media. People from places he had never visited were lifting his name before God. That thought carried him as the doctors began their work. The procedure was long, but when it was done, the news was better than anyone expected. The doctors explained that things had gone smoothly, more smoothly than they feared. What could have been complicated turned into success. His heart had a real chance to heal, to repair, and to regain strength. When Voddie opened his eyes after surgery, relief washed over him. His body was weak, his chest sore, but his spirit felt alive. He was still here. God had given him another chance. In the days that followed, the hospital became a place of both struggle and gratitude. There were painful moments, the slow process of recovery, the discomfort of being tied to machines, the endless checks by nurses and doctors. Yet every difficult step forward was also a victory. Each breath, each heartbeat was proof that he had been given time he almost lost. One afternoon, as he lay in his bed, Voddie picked up his phone and began to read messages that had poured in. Friends, fellow pastors, and complete strangers had filled his pages with words of encouragement. Some wrote long letters. Others simply wrote, "Praying for you." But all of it touched him deeply. Soon, the words blurred as tears filled his eyes. He tried to keep reading, but the emotion was too much. His wife looked at him, worried something was wrong. But he shook his head. Nothing was wrong. Everything was right. He was simply overwhelmed by love. Love that reached across oceans. Love from people he had never seen. Love that carried him when he felt he could not walk on his own. That moment became one of the most powerful memories of his stay at Mayo. More than the machines, more than the medicine, it was the prayers and compassion of people that gave him strength. He realized then that recovery was not just physical. It was also spiritual. God was not only healing his body. God was reminding him of the family of faith that stretched across the globe. Though there was still a long road ahead, the heavy cloud of fear had lifted. Voddie now looked forward with hope. The doctors said he would need more checkups in the coming weeks. Healing takes time, and there would still be struggles. But the most important news had already been spoken. The surgery was successful, and his life had been spared. As he rested in the quiet of that hospital room, Voddie reflected on the path that brought him there. The timing, the doctors, the prayers, none of it felt random. He believed God had written every detail. And though the journey was not finished, one truth gave him peace. He was alive, he was healing, and he was not alone. The days after the surgery moved slowly. Every morning began with the sound of nurses checking machines, recording numbers, and asking gentle questions about how he felt. For Voddie Baucham, each small routine became a reminder of life itself. Every beat of his heart, once uncertain, now carried a rhythm of hope. The doctors were pleased. They explained that his heart had responded well to the procedure. The danger that once hovered so close had passed. There was still work to be done, of course. Healing would take weeks, maybe months. There would be checkups in the near future, and careful steps as he regained his strength. But the words "full recovery" now filled the room, and they gave him and his family a hope that words could hardly capture. For Voddie, recovery was not just about medicine or rest. It was also about reflection. As he lay in his hospital bed, he thought about the strange way life can shift. Only weeks earlier, he was preaching, traveling, and planning for the future. Then suddenly, everything was uncertain. His strength, his voice, his very breath, all of it had been placed at risk. Now, having come through the valley, he felt the world with new eyes. Simple things became precious. The warmth of his wife's hand as she sat beside him. The sound of a message arriving on his phone. The smile of a nurse who whispered, "You're getting stronger." Each moment reminded him that life is not guaranteed. It is a gift, and that gift must be received with gratitude. The messages of love continued to pour in. Each day, his phone filled with prayers, encouragements, and notes of support from across the globe. Some were from close friends and fellow ministers who knew him well. Others came from strangers who had only heard his name. But together, their voices formed a chorus of hope. One evening, he opened his phone again and began to read through the words. "We are praying for you, Pastor Voddie. God is with you. Your ministry has blessed us, and now we are standing with you." Line after line, message after message, he felt the weight of those words. His chest tightened, and tears filled his eyes. Once again, he wept, not from pain, but from gratitude. His wife, Bridget, thought something might be wrong, but soon she realized these were tears of joy. Voddie was overwhelmed by the kindness of people he might never meet. The support was not just emotional. People gave generously, helping with the expenses of travel and treatment. A GoFundMe page had been set up, and the outpouring was staggering. Every gift, whether large or small, was a testimony of love. For Voddie, it was humbling. He had spent years teaching and giving to others. Now, in his weakness, others were giving back to him. As the days passed, the strength in his body slowly returned. The doctors encouraged him to take short walks down the hallway. Each step felt heavy, but also victorious. He remembered how close he had come to losing everything. Now, walking even a few feet was proof of God's mercy. At night, when the hospital grew quiet, Voddie thought about the future. He wondered how this experience would shape his ministry. He had always spoken about the sovereignty of God, about trusting Him in all circumstances. But now those words carried a deeper weight. He had lived them. He had faced the shadow of death, and God had carried him through. This was no longer just theology. It was testimony, and he knew he would share it. Not to draw attention to himself, but to point to the grace of God. To remind others that faith is not just for the easy days, but for the hardest ones. When the doctors finally said he could go home, relief swept through his family. The hospital had been a place of healing, but there is no comfort like the comfort of home. Bridget smiled as they packed his things. They knew there would still be follow-up visits, still a road to walk. But leaving Mayo felt like crossing a threshold. The darkest season was behind them. As they stepped outside, the sky above Minnesota stretched wide and blue. The air felt different, almost new. For Voddie, even the simple act of breathing fresh air felt like a victory. He thought of the people who had prayed for this moment, the countless voices who had lifted him up. He wished he could thank them all face to face. Instead, he carried them in his heart. Every message, every prayer, every gift was part of his healing. He knew he could not repay it, but he could live in a way that honored it. His gratitude would be shown not only in words but in the way he cherished the time he had been given. Back home, the rhythm of life was slower. Rest, recovery, and reflection filled the days. But even in the quiet, he felt surrounded by the global family of believers who had walked with him. His story was not just about sickness. It was about the power of faith, the strength of community, and the kindness of God. Looking back, Voddie realized that his heart had been healed in more ways than one. The doctors had repaired what was broken physically, but the love of God's people had repaired something deeper. It reminded him that even when weakness takes hold, no one is truly alone. This was a lesson of his journey. Life is fragile, but it is also filled with grace. Faith does not remove suffering, but it gives strength to endure it. And love, the love of family, friends, and strangers, can carry a person through even the darkest valley. For Voddie Baucham, the story was not finished. His ministry would continue. His voice would rise again. But now, every word he spoke, every sermon he preached, every lesson he taught would carry the weight of this experience. He had been given another chance, and he would not waste it.